Howdy, grab yourselves a beer, it's time to talk Path of Exile. I wanted to make a quick video explaining my Atlas strategy for the Betrayal League. Now, this is not in any way an argument that this is the best strategy to take, but it's one that's worked for me. If you've watched my other videos, you'll know that I've been a fan of the Tower map, and also of the Shaped Moon Temple, or either Shaped Moon Temple or Elder Moon Temple. And if you have a quick look at my Atlas, you'll see not only are those unlocked, but so is everything else. I've unlocked every single map on the Atlas with the exception of Parandus Manor, and that's just been a case of a combination of two things: laziness and not being certain that the cost-benefit ratio is there. You might also notice that my Elder Orb is currently located on the Glacier map. Now, just to explain these decisions that have been made. Firstly, the Glacier map is a tile set that I've made as my Elder Orb for two reasons. Firstly, it's just an absolutely stunning looking map. Like with the Moon Temple, the GGG artists have really outdone themselves on a lot of the maps that they've produced in the last couple of years. And so it's an exceptional looking map, and one that is just a bit of a joy to run through. But the other reason is that the current system of master daily missions. So if you have a look, this icon here of the sort of blue and gold map indicates that Zana is in a primordial pool map. This icon of a crossbow indicates that Einhar is in a precinct map. This icon here of the red and green portal means that Elva is in Overgrown Ruin, and this grey blob of ugliness indicates that Nico is in the Dunes map. That means that if I run any of those maps, I will find the relevant master in them. There's a pretty strong incentive to run your Zana daily, your Nico daily, and to a lesser extent your Elva daily, all on tier 16 maps if possible. And this means that in Trade League, there's demand for all sorts of unusual maps as a consequence. So for instance, it's not uncommon for me to be able to sell an Elder Glacier map for 20 Chaos Orbs, which is a lot more than other tier 16s. And the reason for that is that someone has had their daily Nico appear on the Elder Glacier. They're playing a build where they can't necessarily run any map, so they can't just take a tier 4 Glacier map that they've looted, back very early in the league, and run it with the this Zana mod, which I'll just illustrate here with the Zana Elder mod. This will turn any old random map into, any old random rare map into a tier 16 map, but it will also randomize the mods on it. And this can be a real problem if you're running a build that absolutely cannot function on certain map mods. So for instance, if you're playing a Righteous Fire build, you probably cannot beat a map that has the mod players cannot regenerate life and mana. Because that Zana Elder mod re-rolls the map, it can end up with you wasting not only the 15 Chaos Orbs that you paid to upgrade it to a tier 16 map, but also your Master Daily. For that reason, people will quite often look to purchase maps from you. So like I said, have fairly regular requests to purchase my Elder Glacier maps. For that reason, I like to have my Elder Orb on something moderately obscure. I've just got to tell this person, sorry, that just went. And so yeah, I've got it on something fairly obscure. Most popular maps to stick it on are Armory, Underground River, Underground Sea, and those are in, and also Burial Chambers. Those are in very wide circulation as Elder maps, and there's a lot of competition on them. But if someone wants an Elder Glacier, they probably have to come to me or one of a few other players. So for that reason, my suggestion to you for your Elder Orb is stick it on your personal preference favourite map. Now the second thing you'll notice is, as I said, that I've unlocked basically everything on the map. There's a reason for that, and that is Cartographer Sextants. You get access to one sextant just for getting to the Atlas of Worlds, so you can stick one of them on your Atlas. You get access to your second sextant when you complete every single white map's bonus objective. So that means that you've completed all the maps all of the white maps while they're at least of magic rarity. You get a third sextant for completing all the yellow maps with their bonus objective, which means that you complete them all when they're rare. And you get a fourth sextant for completing all the red maps with their bonus objective, which means that they're corrupted and rare. And then you get your fifth one for completing the entire Zana quest chain, which culminates in the fight against Uber Elder. Just a little side tip on that: if you can't beat Uber Elder yourself, there is absolutely nothing wrong with asking a more experienced player to do it for you. They will often do so for a cut of the loot, and you can usually find people in the trade channel Trade 820. What sextants do is they can add more monsters onto a map. If you have a look here, I've currently got sextants on Moon Temple, and you'll see that I've got areas can contain an additional abyss. I've got the instant heal. I've got the additional monsters that heal mod, which also has the player's life and mana recovery from flasks are instant. I actually hate this mod because I'm using Mind Over Matter and Lavinia's Spirit flask, and so it does hurt me quite a bit, but extra monsters are extra monsters, I'll take it. Next I have a sextant mod that adds extra monsters that deal physical damage, and then one that adds monsters that deal cold damage. Lots of extra monsters on the map, and they really add up. They cause you to get more maps in return, more raw currency drops, basically more of everything, except you won't be able to get enough sextants back to feed the sort of amount that you'll go through. But that's fine. That's where trading with other players comes in. I like having all 5 sextants unlocked for that reason. They just add so many more monsters onto your maps that that I'm a big fan of just biting the bullet and unlocking every single map on the Atlas. That also means that every map is available for me to receive as a drop from monsters. And this means that when I get my daily master missions on unusual maps, there's a very good chance that I already have them. At one stage of the league, I was considering removing all tier 15 maps from the Atlas except for Tower. So if you have a look here, these are the tier 15 maps: Desert Spring, Lava Lake, Primordial Blocks, and Summit. I was considering using Master Cartographer's seals to remove those. I ended up deciding against it because one, doing so would cause me to fall back to only having access to 4 sextants, and 2, doing so would, and also, sorry, just on that the tower map is in range of 5, can get benefit of all 5 sextants. So if you stick one on Lair of the Hydra, one on Tower, one on Reef, one on Dank Forest, and one on Core, all 5 of them will affect the tower map and will cause you to get heaps and heaps and heaps of extra mobs in there. So I would lose the ability to run Tower with 5 sextants. I would have to use 4. And whilst there is certainly some benefit to getting every tier 15 that drops for me to be a tower map, that does come with a bit of a hassle. So if Primordial Blocks gets my daily Zana and I want to do it, then I have to trade with someone else to pick up a Primordial Blocks. Having to trade slows you down, so I try to avoid that. So for that reason, I've decided to unlock everything and then use the bulk trade functionality to pick up just bulk amounts of towers. I'm using a lot more tower maps than drop for me. I'm also using more moon temples than drop for me, shaped moon temples than drop for me. So I just buy them off other players that have their Atlas configured differently. I would, however, do this differently if you're the sort of person that is running a lot of the pure breachstones, or is running extremely deep in Nico's mines. In that case, you're going to be getting a lot more tier 15 maps dropping for you, and biasing them towards dropping as towers is probably in your best interests. So if you're running a lot of pure breachstones and and you're running really deep in the delve, I would suggest modifying this strategy by scrubbing off the other 4 tier 15 maps and I would also scrub off all tier 14 maps except for Moon Temple. So shape Moon Temple using one of your tier 9 Shaper's Orbs, and then scrub all the other tier 14s from the Atlas. That will then bias your drops to so that every time a monster drops a tier 14, it will always be a Shape Moon Temple. Every time a monster drops a tier 15, it will always be a tower, but it will cause you the hassle of, for instance, if Elva appears on Primordial Blocks, you will need to trade with other players to pick up a Primordial Blocks map. Then you will need to run the incursions in it, and then not complete the map. So that's a bit of a hassle. I decided not to go that way, but it certainly will work. Finally, as I said before, stick your Elder map on your personal favourite map as long as that is not a popular map. So just pick something obscure that you personally like and stick your Elder Orb on that. As I said, I've gone Glacier, but there is no reason that you should go Glacier. I did deliberately go with a white map, and there's a benefit to that. There's a benefit from that I gain, and that is that the red sextants that drop for me, I tend to use on tower. The yellow sextants I tend to use on Shape Moon Temple. You'll see here I have put one red sextant on the Moon Temple itself, but you don't need to do that. You can just run with the three yellow sextants that can reach Moon Temple. You can just run with those three, and then white sextants can be used on Glacier. And once more, if you want to put that on Excavation instead, go ahead. The other very important thing is that I have used absolutely no tier 10 Shaper's Orbs. So these are the ones that raise a tier 10 map up to tier 15. You do get offered 3 of them from Zana, and I think it is important not to use them because in this league economy, every single shaped tier 15 map is worth considerably less than Tower, and is generally worth less than the other natural tier 15. So that's Primordial Block, Summit, and so on. So for that reason, I don't recommend using any of the tier 10 Shaper's Orbs. So just a final summary. For your tier 9 Shaper's Orb, you put one of them on Moon Temple, and if you want to use the other one, do. If you don't, don't. For tier 10 Shaper's Orbs, use absolutely none of them. For your Elder Orb, use it on your personal favourite map, as long as that is not one of the most popular maps in the meta, and look to sell your Elder maps at premium price to people that end up with Nico on it. For your tier 1 to 8 Shaper's Orbs, it really doesn't matter. Use them on your favourite maps, or don't use them as you see fit. I wanted to experiment with the new Fungal Hollow map when I was just sort of starting to get into yellow maps, so I stuck a Shaper's Orb on that. Have I ever run a Fungal Hollow? Sorry, have I ever run a single shaped Fungal Hollow? No, I haven't, because I outleveled them before they started dropping for me. But yeah, just stick them on your favourite maps. There's no real consequences for that. Lastly, there are vendor recipes if you want to change the way that you spec out your Atlas. There are vendor recipes that let you do that. They can be expensive if you're a new player, but if you're a new player, I would recommend that you experience every map this league. Next league, perhaps go for a min-maxed Atlas, but this league, go for a full exploration Atlas and just find out which maps you personally like. As I said, I personally quite like the Moon Temple map. I like the Tower map. Tower's got a lot of monsters. It's got great divination cards. Moon Temple's got an enormous amount of monsters, but lots of people prefer the extremely linear maps. So for instance, Beach map. Beach map is a very simple, very straightforward map with a very easy boss, and this is the game reminding me that I haven't even gone and got the Pantheon from it. But so you might find that you've got quite different tastes to me. The key thing though is to set up your top tier maps in a strategy that's optimal for you. Lastly, keep in mind that it is important to manage where the Elder is on your map. The Elder's tentacle patch will always be contiguous, so that means that that it will never be separated from itself and put in 2 blobs. So you won't have one blob here and then a second disconnected blob over here. It'll always be one contiguous blob, and it puts a very large amount of extra monsters on the map on any map that you run that's got Elder influence. Secondly, if there's at least 7 maps connected together, and you'll see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then any new Shaper spawns will always appear adjacent to your tentacle patch. If there's 1 to 6 maps in your tentacle patch, then Shaper can spawn anywhere on the atlas. But if there's 7 or more in your tentacle patch, then it will always be adjacent. So that means that the next time, I've just run a Moon Temple, the next time Shaper spawns, the most likely place for him to appear is actually right here where I want him. At that point, I'll run a Moon Temple, Elder will probably end up taking it, there's no guarantee in that, there's a bit of randomness, and at that point I can start playing Shaper Elder ping pong. When I get sick of running Moon Temple though, I can then move the Elder influence over towards Glacier and run a bunch of Elder Glaciers for a while. When I get sick of running them, I can then headshot Elder, which is where you just wipe out all of his influence over a series of maps that you run. And then at that point, I'll try and spawn him in Tower again and run a whole bunch of towers that have got Elder and or Shaper influence. As I mentioned, having the Elder influence typically adds 8 packs. It's not guaranteed. Sometimes there'll be the portals which count as 8 packs. Sometimes there'll be 8 packs of the Tentacle Fiends. And at other times you'll have Elder appearing and doing his Tentacle Tantrum attack, which is not the best thing to have, but it will happen sometimes. Then Shaper much less often adds packs, but when he does, they're still worthwhile. So anyways, that's the end of my Atlas video. Not claiming that it's the best strategy out there, but it certainly has worked for me.